Hello again, friends. We're so glad that you are journeying with us at Myers Park United Methodist Church during this Lent season. We continue our Lent small group journey of Henry Nouwen's Life of the Beloved. We are on the chapter Broken, which starts at the page 85. My name is Uyan Kim. I'm the pastor of discipleship here, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague, our executive pastor, Nancy Watson. So glad you could be here with us, Nancy.
Happy to be with you.
Awesome. So in the Broken chapter, Henry Nouwen writes these words: "Our suffering and pain are not simply bothersome interruptions of our lives. Rather, they touch us in our uniqueness and our most intimate individuality. The way I am broken tells you something unique about me. The way you are broken tells me something unique about you." And then he goes on to write that we human beings can suffer immense deprivations with great steadfastness, but when we sense that we no longer have anything to offer to anyone, we quickly lose our grip in life. So he talks about kind of the ebbs and flow of brokenness, and one thing, suffering is universal, and second thing, he writes to how each suffering for everyone is so individualized and unique. So with that said, we avoid pain at any and all costs. That's kind of the way we operate, Nancy. So can you speak to why, and this might be an obvious question, but the reasons why we are so keen on walking away from brokenness rather into the brokenness, which is kind of the beginning of how we find healing, according to Henry Nouwen. What makes us so afraid of so that we run away and avoid suffering and brokenness at all costs instead of actually addressing it?
I think it has to do with, first of all, we are wired to avoid pain. I
Right?
mean, if you touch a hot stove, you don't leave your finger there. And I'm reminded of a story though about pain when my nephew was little. He was playing out in the yard and he got this huge splinter in his foot. And he ran into the kitchen, crying and screaming, "Mom, mom, mom, do something." And so she started to look at his foot, and he wanted her to fix it. But the minute she started handling his foot, he started screaming, "Don't touch it, don't touch it." And I think that's our approach to physical pain as well as emotional pain.
Yeah.
We want it to be better, but we don't want anybody to touch it. And I think, at least with emotional pain, I think sometimes we're afraid that if others know how broken we are, they
Yeah.
won't want to be around us anymore. Or if we end up realizing for ourselves our own brokenness and that leads to so much pain, we're afraid we won't be able to handle it.
Yeah.
And it'll be worse than we have imagined, and there won't be any hope of healing. And so I think that's why Nouwen talks about this being, our pain under the curse, believing that we're suffering because we really are bad, or that somehow it confirms that we're a lost cause. And I think we don't want to face that. And I think in the same way, we're emotionally screaming, "Don't touch it, don't touch it."
I love that imagery of when we get physically wounded, our instinct is first to run away from it, also to prevent people from touching our wounds, when in fact it is through inviting others to be part of our wounds that it can be addressed, bandaged, and healed. I never thought about it that way. So kind of along that note, and Nancy, you've already kind of started this part of the conversation. Henry Nouwen writes in 93, "First step to healing is not a step away from the pain, but a step toward it." And not to, and then he goes on to say, to your point, Nancy, not to think of our pain and suffering as evidence of our cursedness, but rather as we go through the pain and even brokenness, we can actually reclaim and reaffirm our blessedness and belovedness. So what may be the role of the church, the role of the community, so that the beloved community can allow us, empower us, and enable us to not run away from the pain and the brokenness, but rather dwell in the midst of it in certain hopes that we will find healing there? What's the role of the church?
I, I found it very profound that Nouwen says that the only way that we can stand up under suffering is in the company of others.
Yeah.
We cannot do it alone, which kind of flies in the face of our rugged American individualism and our
Mm,
obsession with becoming self-sufficient and independent, and I don't need nothing from nobody. Yet over against that is our deep inner knowledge that we really do need each other,
yeah.
and that Christianity was never intended to be a solo venture. It was never meant to be just me and Jesus. I mean, consider how many of our most sacred moments have to be celebrated in community. There's baptism, communion, worship, even Bible study. So the church allows us, in fact, invites us to come together as people who are uniquely broken, all of us. And that, therefore, the brokenness actually becomes a motivating factor to come together for our mutual benefit.
Yeah, and you mentioned communion, and I never thought about the very language of communion and liturgy until Henry now kind of pointed out that before we can share in the feast, we first have to break the bread. That there's a brokenness within the body first before it's able to then uh, uh, renew us and to nourish us.
And it's amazing to think that in order for Jesus to share himself for us, he had to allow himself to be broken.
Yeah.
But then the words towards the end of the communion is because there is one loaf, we who are many are one. And because there is one cup, we who share the cup become one.
Right.
There was an Episcopal priest who said something amazing that's always stuck with me, that to remember, to remember, is the opposite of being dismembered.
Mm-hmm.
So that when we are remembered, our brokenness is healed and we come together as one.
Right. Which already names the reality that before there is remembering that we are in many ways broken. So there's no reason for us to deny of our brokenness. It's there. It's already kind of there. The step is to acknowledge it and step into it. All right. So maybe we can share some stories, whether it be of our own or people that we've witnessed to. There's a line within the book about the beauty of the broken glass. I never realized that broken glass could shine so brightly, as he writes in page 102. Once again, beautiful imagery for us to consider and reflect upon. And in my life, I've witnessed to people whom, as they've gone through their pain and their brokenness, they're able to minister to people in ways that someone like me could never really reach out authentically. One of the examples, prime examples that I have is a guy named Tony. He's no longer with us, but he was a Vietnam vet, had severe just traumas from his time there. Was drug addict for the latter part of his life until he did eventually become sober. Um, he was an HIV/AIDS. Oh, well, he was HIV positive. So he had all different types of brokenness and trials throughout his life. And then the last 10 years of his life, he was able to reach out to people who had similar experiences in life as he did in ways that someone like me could never do so. And it's not to say that I'm so glad all those pain and tragedies happened in Tony's life, but rather through his own unique brokenness, he was able to shine light that was very unique to him, that God had a particular call on his life that was vastly different from my own, and that he was able to reach people in ways that I could never reach out to.
I think what you're talking about really references what Paul says in Romans, that in essence says that God can bring good things out of terrible
Yeah,
situations. I mean, they're terrible, but God can take those terrible things and repurpose them
right.
so that they accomplish something good. I was reminded of my youngest sister, who is no longer with us. When she was facing terminal cancer, she posted on Facebook, "So many people want to know if I'm asking why me." Actually, she said, "I'm asking why not me." Am I to be spared suffering in this life? No. Is this something I pursued or sought out? No. Am I being punished somehow? No. But here I am. And maybe my perspective from this side of cancer can help someone else.
Yeah.
And so she continued to write notes and cards to her coworkers. She supported others when they came to visit her. She helped them to see and find and follow the goodness around them. Now, I mean, was she a Pollyanna? Absolutely not. I mean, there were times when she raged at the heavens,
Yeah.
but she never did it alone. And there was plenty of long term brokenness in her life, but she walked toward it. And though she never used these words or was even aware of it, this is exactly what she was doing. Those broken pieces were shining for others. And I think God took the nastiness of cancer and repurposed it so
Yeah.
that other people found comfort and solace.
Yeah. And certainly from my kind of theological perspective, and I think you're there too, Nancy, along with many of us here, not to say that God caused any particular horrible things in life to bring something good out of it. That's just life. But God's redeeming grace comes into effect in times of our brokenness to bring something beautiful and good, even from that brokenness. So as we kind of end our time together, I wanted to share this quote. I'm not exactly sure how I think of it, but I think there's profound truth here. In page 99, Henry Nouwen writes, "Here, joy and sorrow are no longer each other's opposites, but have become the two sides of the same desire to grow to the fullness of the beloved."
Mhm. I'm
Um,
I'm reminded of a dear friend of mine, Evelyn Laycock, who used to say, "Joy and happiness are not the same things. Happiness depends on your context and events." She said, "Joy is something that resides in the marrow of your bones." And so that joy can be there even in the midst of terrible suffering
yeah,
because it resides within you. It's something deeper even than the suffering.
yeah, yeah. Well, thanks be to God. Amen to that. Nancy, before we end our time together, any last words for our families in our church and outside the walls of our church?
I would just reiterate that church is where broken people come together
Yes.
to support and to love one another, because the only way you can face suffering is when you do it together. You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
And church is a great place to be with others.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you again, Nancy. Thank you, everyone. As a quick reminder, below our YouTube video description page, you'll see a link to our small group website link at our church website. You are free and always reach out to us with any questions or needs. We hope to continue to find you, whether it be in this YouTube space or even through our Zoom. All of the information for our virtual Zoom conference also can be found in our small group link in our church website. Peace of Christ to you, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. And thank you again, Pastor Nancy.